George Soros has pledged a whopping $10 million to fight hate crimes in the United States. Now, this was a response to the increased number of hate crimes following the election of Donald Trump. The FBI has reported last week that there was an increase of nearly 67% last year in hate crimes against Muslim Americans and an increase of 6% against all groups. So there was already an uptick, but the number kind of exploded after Donald Trump was elected. So between the election and Friday, the Southern Poverty Law Center received more than 700 reports of harassment and possible hate crimes. So George Soros sees all this and he realizes it's a problem. And so he's decided to spend a considerable amount of money to combat it. Soros's nonprofit, the Open Society Foundations, plans to spend at least $5 million in coming weeks to fund grants of as much as $150,000 to community groups and civil rights organizations to develop plans for combating the recent spate of hate crimes and to work with victims. Now, the rest of the money is going to go toward tracking and reporting these hate crimes, because even the FBI is saying that there are some inconsistencies. It's kind of a flawed system. And so George Soros wants to improve that. And I think it's important to do all this. I think it's important to protect people against possible hate crimes. We are seeing an uptick, and I do think it has something to do with the rhetoric of Trump and his campaign. But interestingly enough, George Soros is like, this is not a political statement. I'm not trying to make a political statement. Right. But it is a political statement, and that's okay.
Yeah, it is. I mean, could we say it's an underlining political statement? Yeah. It's definitely something. He's a Holocaust survivor himself.
Yes.
And so for his, for a lot of the Jews and other things, everyone's being oppressed right now. It's almost like going back to the rhetoric that Trump has been putting out there. All of these neo-Nazis, all of these, who want America to be pure white, again, the alt groups and everything else that we're seeing, they're coming out in droves now because they have that confidence now. So that's putting a lot of fear into the country. That's putting a lot of fear into people. And some of these smaller towns where people aren't protected, like, think about it. We've seen all these different stories on, this mayor from this small town of Virginia and this politician from this state and this one from this here saying this and that about, whether if they're saying about Michelle Obama or anything like that. I always have said, if someone has the audacity to speak of someone else in that tone or that way, could you imagine what they're doing when the cameras aren't on and there's no one else around?
Yeah, that's a great point. Wow, I never really thought about it that way, but it is scary to think that it could be worse than what the rhetoric portrays. Yeah. But another thing that I found really interesting about this is the demonization of George Soros. And so a lot of conservatives will attack their opponents by saying that they're funded by George Soros. We're accused of being funded by George Soros, which I think is hilarious because we kind of want to be, but we're not, right? So like if we were, it's not like something we'd hide. We'd like openly accept it and we'd be like, awesome, we got funding from George Soros. There's nothing wrong with that. But one of the criticisms that a lot of Republicans have is that George Soros is too influential with his money in our current modern-day political system. But you also have the Koch brothers on the other side, which I would argue spend way more money in trying to manipulate our elections and manipulate our politicians. And they never complain about that. Now, understand, I don't want money in politics, period. Like, I don't care if it's Democrats, I don't care if it's Republicans. I don't think money in politics should be part of our political system. But it's just funny to hear one side complain about something that they're benefiting from, and they're benefiting from it, in a big way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Money makes the world go round.
It does. Money makes the political system go round, I guess.
1,000%.
But go around in a very corrupt way.
And let's just, George Soros's passions have always been to help people and to help fund, the things that he's very passionate about. So if you had 10 to 15, 20 different people that wanted to do the same thing, what's the problem with that? The problem is you have someone who's extremely wealthy, more wealthy than a lot of others. So case in point, if Bill Gates or like Tim Cook or somebody like that was actually out here doing, funding whatever system that they want, because there's a lot of rhetoric right now of Silicon Valley wanting to create a whole new political party per se, or a new movement. And if you knew the billionaires that were a part of that, it's like Soros times 10, which is very incredible.
Is that the alt-left movement? I mean, I don't even want to say that because by the way, from this point forward, I'm no longer using alt-right. Like, I'm done using alt-right. Like, I want to call them what they are, and they're white nationalists, and that's it. Like, they're white supremacists.
Yeah.
I'm not going to allow them to use any kind of euphemism to describe themselves. So alt-right, it's like nails on a chalkboard at this point when I hear it.
Got it.
So, by the way, that's my position on it. That's not to say that the other hosts should do it or have to do it. It's just the way I feel. I think that we're making them seem like they're not as bad as they really are. They're garbage, and they should be treated as such.
You know who makes independent media possible? You guys. Because of you, we can actually do this show free of any outside influence. That's what makes us so strong. Become a member today. tytnetwork.com/join. You are the media.